iLearner. Learn today, lead tomorrow.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be tackling the Energy Institute's High-Level Framework for Process Safety Management, second edition.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty dense document.
Yeah, it is.
But don't worry, we're here to break it down for you.
Absolutely.
Think of us as your process safety shortcuts.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
What is Process Safety Management, or PSM,
Yeah.
and why should we care?
Well, it's more than just, wearing your hard hat and your safety goggles.
Right.
PSM is all about preventing those big catastrophic incidents like explosions, fires, chemical releases,
Right.
the kind of things that make headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Right, those events that have devastating consequences
Yeah.
for not just the people involved, but the environment and a company's reputation as well.
Exactly. And this framework is designed to be a roadmap for avoiding those disasters.
Okay.
And it applies to everyone in the energy sector, from massive refineries all the way down to smaller operations like filling stations.
So whether you're running a huge processing plant or a local distribution center, the principles are adaptable.
Absolutely. But the key is understanding those principles and how they fit together. And that's where the sand cone model comes in.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the sand cone all about?
All right.
I'm picturing like those colorful beach toys.
Not quite.
Okay.
Imagine like a real sand cone, The framework's 4 core focus areas are like the layers of that cone.
Right.
At the bottom, the foundation is leadership.
Okay.
And then comes risk identification, risk management, and finally review and improvement at the top.
So just like a sand cone needs a solid base effective process, safety management starts with strong leadership.
Yes.
But why is that leadership layer so crucial?
Well, it sets the tone for the entire organization.
Okay.
If leadership isn't truly committed to safety, everything else crumbles.
Yeah.
And that's why, for example, the framework requires that the CEO or managing director personally signs off on the health, safety, and process safety policy.
Wow, so that's putting their signature where their mouth is?
Absolutely.
It's not just a symbolic gesture, is it?
Not at all. It's about accountability.
Okay.
It sends a clear message that safety is a top priority from the very top of the organization.
Yeah.
And that commitment trickles down to every level.
So it's not just about having a policy, it's about having that culture of safety that permeates the entire company.
Exactly. And that's where the other layers of the sand cone come in.
Okay.
Risk identification is about systematically finding those potential hazards before they turn into incidents.
Makes sense. You can't fix what you don't know is broken, right?
And then risk management is about putting controls in place to mitigate those hazards.
Okay.
That could involve engineering solutions, administrative controls, or even changing the way people work.
So it's a multifaceted approach tailored to the specific risks of each operation.
Exactly. And finally, the top layer review and improvement is all about continuous learning.
That's a concept we hear a lot these days. But what does it actually mean in the context of process safety?
It means regularly evaluating your systems, learning from incidents, both near misses and actual events,
Okay.
and making adjustments to improve your performance.
So PSM isn't a one-time fix, it's an ongoing journey.
Precisely. And that's where the real power of this framework lies.
Okay.
It's a guide to creating a sustainable safety culture.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Good.
But we've only touched on the framework's 4 main focus areas.
All right.
I know there's a lot more detail within each of those layers.
Yes, there are 20 elements in total,
Okay.
each one addressing a specific aspect of process safety management, and we're going to dive into those elements next.
All right. And I have a feeling those are where the real aha moments are going to come in.
I think so too.
So for our listeners, get ready to take notes because we're about to unpack those 20 elements and reveal the key insights and expectations of each.
We'll see you in part 2. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Energy Institute's high-level framework for process safety management.
Okay.
We laid the foundation with that sand cone model. Now let's start building the structure with the first few elements.
Okay, let's get specific. Where do we begin?
We'll start with element 1, leadership, commitment, and responsibility.
Okay.
We touched on this a little bit earlier with the CEO sign off on the safety policy,
Right.
but there's more to it than just signatures.
Okay, so it's not just about saying the right words.
Right.
It's about walking the walk.
Exactly. The framework really emphasizes that leadership needs to demonstrate their commitment through visible actions and decisions.
Okay.
This includes things like allocating adequate resources to process safety, promoting open communication,
Right.
and fostering a culture where everyone feels empowered to speak up about hazards.
So it's about creating an environment where safety isn't just a priority,
Yeah,
it's a value that's embedded in everything they do.
precisely. And that leads us to element 2, competency and training.
Okay.
You can have the best safety systems in the world, but if your people aren't competent and properly trained, it's all for nothing.
That makes sense. It's like having a state-of-the-art car but not knowing how to drive it.
Exactly. The framework highlights the importance of identifying the specific competencies needed for each role,
Okay.
providing initial and ongoing training,
Right.
and verifying that employees can actually apply what they've learned.
Yeah.
It also emphasizes the need for refresher training
Okay.
to keep those skills sharp.
So it's not a one-and-done training session.
No,
It's about that ongoing development and reinforcement.
exactly. And this applies not just to frontline workers, but to everyone in the organization, including managers and supervisors.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to understand their role in process safety.
Okay, so we've got leadership setting the tone.
Yes.
We've got competent, well-trained employees.
Right.
What's next?
Now we move into the realm of risk assessment and management, which is element 4.
Okay.
And this is where we systematically identify those potential hazards and we evaluate the risks they pose.
So it's about being proactive, not just reacting to incidents after they happen.
Exactly. The framework emphasizes the need for a structured risk assessment process that considers all aspects of the operation,
Okay.
including equipment procedures, human factors, and even external events like natural disasters.
And once you've identified those risks, what then?
Then you develop and implement controls to mitigate those risks.
Okay.
This could involve engineering solutions like safety instrumented systems,
Right.
administrative controls like permits to work, or even behavioral changes like improved communication practices.
So it's about finding the right combination of controls to reduce the likelihood of an incident occurring, and if it does occur, minimizing the consequences.
Exactly. And remember, the framework emphasizes that risk management isn't a one-time activity. It needs to be an ongoing process with regular reviews and updates to ensure that those controls are still effective as conditions change.
Makes sense. Things are constantly evolving in any industrial setting.
Yeah,
So your risk management strategies need to evolve too.
absolutely. Now let's talk about something that's often overlooked, but absolutely critical.
Right.
Documentation records and knowledge management, element 7.
Okay. I have to admit, that one sounds a little dry.
Yeah.
Why is it so important?
Well, think about it this way. Documentation is the memory of your organization.
Oh,
It captures all that valuable information about your processes, your equipment, and past incidents.
right.
Without accurate, accessible records, you're essentially operating blind.
I see your point. It's like trying to navigate a city without a map.
Yeah,
You might eventually find your way,
right.
but it's going to be a lot more difficult and risky.
Exactly. The framework stresses the importance of maintaining accurate records for everything.
Okay.
From equipment history and maintenance logs to incident investigations and management of change documentation.
So if there's a piece of equipment with a history of malfunctions,
Right.
those records could be crucial in preventing a future incident.
Exactly. And it's not just about preserving historical data.
Yeah.
The framework also emphasizes the importance of capturing and sharing lessons learned from incidents, near misses, and even everyday operations.
So it's about creating a knowledge base that everyone in the organization can access and learn from.
Precisely. And that knowledge can help inform decisions, improve procedures, and prevent similar incidents from happening again.
Okay, I'm starting to see how even those seemingly mundane elements like documentation can have a huge impact on process safety.
Absolutely. And speaking of impact, let's move on to management of change and project management, element 8.
Okay.
This one's all about controlling those modifications to processes, equipment, and procedures that can introduce new hazards if not managed carefully.
Change is inevitable,
Yeah,
but it needs to be managed properly to avoid those unintended consequences.
exactly. The framework outlines a systematic process for evaluating proposed changes,
Okay.
assessing their potential impact on safety, and implementing controls to mitigate those risks. It also emphasizes the importance of clear roles and responsibilities, communication, and documentation throughout the change process.
So it's about making sure that any change, whether it's a new piece of equipment or a revised procedure, is carefully planned, reviewed, and implemented with safety in mind.
Precisely, and that same level of rigor applies to project management as well.
Okay.
The framework stresses that process safety needs to be integrated into all phases of a project, from design and engineering
Right.
to construction and commissioning.
So it's not just about building it, right?
Yeah.
It's about making sure it's safe to operate from day one.
Exactly, and that brings us to an element that's all about maintaining the integrity of your equipment.
All right.
Inspection and maintenance, element 14.
Okay, this one feels pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You need to keep your equipment in good working order
Yeah.
to prevent breakdowns and failures.
You're right, but the framework goes beyond just fixing things when they break.
Okay.
It emphasizes the importance of a proactive, risk-based approach to inspection and maintenance.
So it's about identifying potential problems before they become major issues.
Exactly. The framework highlights the need for regular inspections based on the risk profile of each piece of equipment.
Okay.
It also stresses the importance of using qualified personnel following established procedures
Right.
and documenting all inspection and maintenance activities.
So you have a complete history of each asset.
Yes.
Which can help you spot trends and make informed decisions about repairs or replacements.
Precisely, and this meticulous record-keeping is particularly important when it comes to those pieces of equipment that are critical for preventing major accidents.
You're talking about safety-critical devices, element 15.
Exactly. These are the alarm sensors, shutdown systems, and other devices that are designed to prevent or mitigate a catastrophic event.
Right.
The framework dedicates an entire element to these devices, emphasizing that their testing, inspection, and maintenance needs to be even more rigorous than for other equipment.
It makes sense. These devices are the last line of defense.
Yeah.
So they need to be in top condition.
Absolutely. And any time one of these devices is deactivated or bypassed even temporarily, it needs to be carefully documented and approved by qualified personnel.
So no cutting corners or disabling alarms because they're annoying.
Exactly. These devices are there for a reason to protect people, the environment, and your company's reputation.
This is fascinating.
Good.
But I'm realizing we've only scratched the surface of the framework's 20 elements.
You're right. We still got more to explore.
Yeah.
And we'll be diving into those remaining elements in part 3 of this deep dive.
So for our listeners, stay tuned.
Yes.
We'll be back soon to finish our exploration of the Energy Institute's high-level framework for process safety management.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're in the final stretch of our exploration of the Energy Institute's high-level framework for process safety management. We've covered leadership risk management documentation and that critical role of safety devices.
Yep. Now we're going to kind of shift our focus to the human element of process safety.
Okay.
Because even with the best systems and equipment in place,
Human error can still be a factor in incidents.
that's a great point. So how does the framework address this human factor?
Well, it starts with element 3, employee selection, placement, and competency.
Okay.
This element emphasizes the importance of hiring and placing individuals who are not only technically qualified,
Right.
but also have the right attitude and aptitude for working safely.
So it's not just about skills and experience. It's about finding people who are truly committed to safety.
Exactly. And once you've hired those individuals, it's crucial to provide them with the training and support they need to succeed.
Okay.
That's where element 10, training and supervision, comes in.
Okay, we touched on training earlier, but how does supervision play into this?
Well, effective supervision is essential for reinforcing safe work practices, identifying and correcting unsafe behaviors,
Right.
and providing guidance and mentorship. The framework highlights the importance of having qualified supervisors who are not only knowledgeable about process safety,
Okay.
but are also skilled in communication and leadership.
So it's about creating a culture where safety is everyone's responsibility.
Yeah.
But supervisors play a key role in setting the example and providing support.
Exactly. And speaking of support, let's talk about element 13, fatigue management.
Okay.
Fatigue is a serious hazard in any industry, but especially in high-risk environments like energy.
I can see how fatigue could lead to impaired judgment,
Yeah.
slower reaction times,
Right.
and increased risk of errors.
You're absolutely right, and that's why the framework emphasizes the importance of recognizing the signs of fatigue,
Yeah.
implementing work schedules that minimize fatigue, and providing employees with the resources and support they need to manage their fatigue levels.
So it's about acknowledging that fatigue is a real issue and taking steps to mitigate it.
Precisely, and this focus on the human element extends beyond individual employees.
Okay.
It also includes managing interactions with contractors and suppliers.
Right, because even though those folks aren't your direct employees,
Yeah.
they can still have a significant impact on your safety performance.
Exactly. Element 9, contractor and supplier selection and management, highlights the need for a robust process to evaluate potential contractors,
All right.
not just on their technical capabilities, but also on their safety track record
Okay.
and alignment with your company's values.
So it's about choosing partners who share your commitment to safety.
Right.
But once you've selected a contractor, How do you ensure they're meeting your standards?
The framework emphasizes the importance of clear communication, comprehensive training,
Okay.
and ongoing monitoring to ensure contractors are following your safety procedures and protocols.
So it's about working together to create a safe work environment for everyone.
Exactly. Safety shouldn't stop at the fence line.
Right.
Now let's talk about what happens when things do go wrong.
Okay.
Because despite our best efforts, incidents can still occur.
Right.
And that's where Element 16 incident reporting and investigation comes in.
Okay, so this is about learning from those incidents
Right.
to prevent them from happening again.
Precisely, the framework stresses that all incidents and near misses, no matter how small, need to be reported and investigated.
Even a minor slip, trip, or fall.
Especially those,
Right.
because often those seemingly minor events can be early warning signs of bigger problems.
It's like a crack in the foundation that, if left unaddressed, could lead to a major structural failure.
That's a great analogy, and the framework emphasizes that these investigations need to go beyond just identifying the immediate cause of the incident.
Oh.
It's about digging deeper to uncover those underlying systemic factors,
Right.
those latent conditions that might have contributed to the event.
So it's about finding root causes, not just assigning blame.
Exactly. And once you've identified those root causes, the framework emphasizes the need for corrective actions to prevent the same incident from happening again.
Okay.
This might involve changes to procedures, training programs, equipment design,
Right.
or even organizational culture.
So it's about using those incidents as opportunities to learn and get better.
Yeah.
It's a continuous improvement.
Precisely. And that brings us to two key elements that are all about ensuring the integrity of the entire process safety management system. Element 17, emergency preparedness,
Okay.
and Element 18, audit assurance management, review, and intervention.
Okay, let's start with emergency preparedness. This one seems pretty self-explanatory. You need to be ready for anything, right?
Right, but the framework goes beyond just having a plan in place.
Okay.
It emphasizes the importance of having detailed procedures for a wide range of potential emergencies, from fires and explosions to cyber attacks and natural disasters. And those plans need to be regularly reviewed and updated, incorporating lessons learned from actual incidents and drill.
So it's a living document constantly evolving to reflect the latest threats and best practices.
Exactly. And it's not just about responding to emergencies, it's about preventing them in the first place.
Okay.
And that leads us to Element 18, audit assurance management, review, and intervention.
Okay.
This element is all about checking your work, so to speak,
Correct.
making sure that the system is working as intended.
So it's about auditing the entire process safety management system to make sure it's effective.
Exactly. The framework stresses the importance of regular internal and external audits, using a defined set of criteria to evaluate performance against the framework's expectations.
So it's like a report card for your process safety program.
That's a good way to put it. And the framework highlights that these audits shouldn't just be a box-ticking exercise.
Yeah.
They need to be conducted by qualified independent personnel who can provide objective feedback and identify areas for improvement.
So it's about having a fresh set of eyes, looking for those blind spots and potential weaknesses.
Precisely. And the framework also stresses the importance of management review,
Okay.
where senior leaders regularly analyze safety data, identify trends, and make decisions about resource allocation and strategic priorities. It's about making sure that safety is embedded in every level of the organization. And finally, the framework highlights the importance of intervention when things aren't going as planned.
So if an audit reveals a serious problem, or if there's a spike in incidents, you need to take decisive action.
Right, and those interventions might involve anything from retraining employees to revising procedures to investing in new equipment. It's about closing the loop, making sure that the findings from audits and reviews lead to real change on the ground.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
From leadership commitment and risk assessments to emergency preparedness and meticulous documentation, this framework really leaves no stone unturned when it comes to building a robust process safety culture.
And remember, this is just our interpretation of the framework.
Right.
We've highlighted some key elements and expectations, but there's a wealth of information in the full document.
So for our listeners, we encourage you to explore the Energy Institute's high-level framework for process safety management, second edition in its entirety. It's a valuable resource for anyone working in or around high-hazard industries.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
Process safety is an ongoing journey, a commitment to continuous improvement.
It's about creating a culture where everyone from the CEO to the newest hire understands their role in preventing incidents and keeping each other safe.
And that commitment, that shared responsibility is what makes all the difference.
Until next time, deep divers, stay curious, stay safe, and keep learning.